The ring hits the marble floor at 2:47 in the morning. No one throws it. No one drops it in anger. Cassian Eze simply opens his fingers and lets it fall, the way a man lets go of something he never should have been holding in the first place. The diamond bounces once, twice, settles near the leg of the glass coffee table, face up, throwing tiny fractured light across the ceiling like an accusation. 40 floors below, Manhattan does not care. The city burns the way it always burns, indifferent, relentless, 10,000 lights blinking for 10,000 reasons that have nothing to do with what is happening in this penthouse right now. The floor-to-ceiling windows make it look close enough to touch. It is not close. Nothing about Cassian's life right now is close to anything real. From the east wing of the penthouse, a child is crying. Not the loud, demanding cry of a toddler who wants something. This is worse. This is the quiet, rhythmic, almost patient cry of a small person who has already learned that crying loud gets you nothing. So you cry soft, steady, like breathing, like a habit you have given up expecting to break. The sound moves through the penthouse walls like smoke. Cassian hears it. He does not move. On the glass table in front of him, 3 phones face up. All 3 display the same headline across different screens. The New York Post, page 6. A Bloomberg alert that usually only triggers for market crashes. Thorn, excuse me, Eze Empire fractures, Omega missing, Heir unverified, CEO unreachable. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. There is a security report beside the phones. 41 pages. I flagged red at the top. A breach inside this building, inside the private medical floor, 7 levels down, executed 11 days ago using access credentials that were deactivated 8 months earlier. Credentials belonging to one specific person. Cassian knows whose. He has known since Tuesday. He has told no one. The child's crying slows, then stops. The silence that replaces it is the loudest thing in the room. Cassian Eze, 34 years old, CEO of Eze Capital, the man whose name moves markets from New York to Lagos to London without him having to raise his voice, sits in his own penthouse and stares at a diamond ring on the floor and understands, for the first time in a life built entirely on calculation, that he calculated wrong. Not once, 3 times. The first miscalculation was believing the gala was a coincidence, and the second was believing the Boston hotel room was a sealed chapter. The third, the one that is sitting somewhere in the East Wing right now, breathing in the particular shallow rhythm of a child who has cried himself to exhaustion. The third mistake was believing that a person without a voice had nothing to say. Because somewhere in this building, hidden in a place Cassian arranged himself, is a man who has never spoken a single word in his presence. A man with storm-grey eyes and hands that shake when he types on his phone, and a body that was used as a weapon by his own family, and then left in a room full of powerful, dangerous people and told to survive it. A man who is no longer where Cassian put him. The security breach was not a hack, it was an exit. And the child in the East Wing, the child whose scent still carries the warm, specific note that Cassian recognized the moment the nurses placed him in his arms. That child called someone a word today. A single word. In a voice barely above a whisper, in the way children say enormous things sideways and casually, and then move on. He did not say it to Cassian. The East Wing is silent now. The ring is still on the floor. The phones keep lighting up with alerts Cassian is not reading. And somewhere between that charity gala 8 months ago and this marble floor tonight, a man who controls billions of dollars in assets across 4 continents lost the only thing that was never for sale. He just doesn't know yet if it's too late to get it back. The gala smells like old money and fresh cruelty, and Cassian Eze is bored before he finishes his first drink. He arrives at 9, bourbon in hand before his coat is taken, and moving through the crowd the way current moves through water, not loudly, not visibly, but everything adjusts around him anyway. The Fifth Avenue penthouse is full of the particular kind of person who attends charity events, not to give, but to be seen giving. Connecticut political families in structured gowns, New Jersey shipping money in custom brioni, California tech founders wearing deliberate casualness that costs more than most people's rent. Crystal flutes, Hermes clutches catching light, Gucci heels on marble, laughter timed to impress. Cassian checks his watch at 9:18. He has 42 minutes left in this room, and he intends to use them to confirm 2 business contacts. Deflect 1 marriage alliance approach he has already declined twice through intermediaries, and leave before the auction portion begins. Because nothing about a charity auction requires his physical presence. He is reviewing a California infrastructure offer in his head when the scent hits him. He stops. Not visibly, a man like Cassian Eze does not stop visibly in the middle of a room full of people who are watching him even when they pretend they aren't. But inside, something that has been running at controlled speed for years suddenly shifts. The bourbon glass rises to his mouth and does not move further. Across the room, near the floor-to-ceiling windows where the Manhattan skyline glitters 40 floors down, a man stands alone. He is slight, brown-skinned, with the kind of bone structure that photographs well and exhausts easily. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, a softness around the eyes that looks fragile from a distance and is probably something else up close. And he is wearing an oversized suit jacket, deep black Prada. Cassian's eye catalogues this automatically, but the jacket does not fit him correctly. The shoulders are half an inch too wide, the sleeves fall past his wrists, as if it belongs to a version of himself from before something changed. His white shirt is unbuttoned 1 button too low. Not deliberately, he is not presenting himself, he has simply stopped caring about the detail. The way people stop caring about small things when they are managing something enormous. His cheeks carry the high flush of someone who has been drinking steadily. Not celebrating, medicating. His eyes, grey, specific, the colour of the sky 30 seconds before a storm, are unfocused and moving across the room without landing anywhere. He is not speaking to anyone. Or Cassian watches him for 4 seconds and understands why. This is not shyness. This is not arrogance. This man is not choosing silence. He cannot break it. And the scent, warm, delicate, specific, beneath the Tom Ford and bourbon and the aggressively present Creed Aventus coming off someone nearby, that scent is the thing that has stopped Cassian's internal clock. Because it is not just distress, it is something underneath distress. Something older and more specific. Something every alpha in the room should be registering and somehow only Cassian seems to notice. He takes 1 step toward the window, then Zaire Vale appears. Cassian knows Darius the way he knows most men in this room. By folder, not by feeling. Massachusetts shipping dynasty, 2nd-generation money trying to perform like 3rd. Broad-shouldered, louder than the room requires, carrying the particular confidence of a man who has never been told no by anyone who mattered to him. Darius cuts between 2 groups and positions himself directly in front of the man by the window. Deliberate, calculated. His back angles to block the nearest exit. You really came here without a mark, Darius's voice carries. He is not trying to keep this quiet. What's the matter? Your Alpha 2 broke for a Tiffany collar. Or did he just not bother? Laughter. 3 people, 4, a ripple through the nearest cluster. The man by the window opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. His lips part. His throat moves. His eyes go wide with the specific, devastating look of a person who is trying to respond to humiliation with words and remembering. In real time, in public, in front of people who are now watching. That words are the one thing his body will not give him. The silence lands like a slap. Darius reads it immediately. Cassian watches the calculation move across his face, the recognition of advantage, the decision to press it. He steps closer, inside the man's space now, deliberately close enough to overlap their sense, alpha dominance pressed forward like a hand on a chest. The man's hand moves, not to push Darius back. Down, to his own stomach. A small, unconscious press of fingers against his lower abdomen, there and gone in half a second. Cassian is already moving. His hand closes around Darius's wrist from behind, not grabbing, not yanking. Just closing. One slow, complete grip that communicates exactly one thing. This stops now. Darius turns. Cassian looks at him. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. "'Cause if you can't recognize class without a collar to label it," he says, quietly enough that only the 3 of them hear it clearly, "then you're the one who needs a leash." The room recalibrates in the way rooms do around gravity, not dramatically, but completely. Conversations resume. Eyes look away. The moment disperses in the way these moments do when someone with enough authority decides they are over. Outside, the November wind comes off the park like a wall. The man is shaking. Cassian says, "Your name." The man pulls a phone from his jacket pocket. His fingers are unsteady. He types 2 words and holds the screen up. Zaire Vale. Cassian's jaw tightens. He looks at the screen, then at the man, Zaire, who is watching him with the particular attention of someone reading a verdict. Vale, Darius Vale's younger brother. And the scent that stopped Cassian's internal clock 20 minutes ago is not just distress. It is 8 weeks of something Cassian is only now allowing himself to name. He does the math in 4 seconds, goes still for 2 more, then says the thing that will change every calculation he has ever made about his own life. "You're coming with me." Zaire stares at him, does not move, does not type a refusal, and that, the specific, exhausted, terrible stillness of a man who has run out of other options, is the moment Cassian understands that whatever happened in that Boston hotel room 2 months ago did not end when the storm cleared and the flights resumed. It is standing in front of him in an oversized Prada jacket, shaking, silent, carrying something Cassian put there without knowing it. They leave the gala at 9:53. Cassian's calendar notification for 10:15 fires into his pocket, depart, event complete, and he ignores it for the first time in 4 years. Cassian's penthouse smells like control. Temperature-managed air, chrome and leather, the faint mineral smell of surfaces that are cleaned by people who are paid not to be noticed. Zaire Vale does not belong in this room, and both of them know it. He stumbles once inside the entrance, his right shoulder catching the doorframe, body overestimating the distance the way bodies do when they are exhausted and slightly drunk and operating on fear instead of sleep. Cassian's hand reaches his arm before the stumble finishes. Fingers close around the sleeve of that too big jacket. Steady, not tight. The touch of a person who is catching something, not claiming it. Zaire goes still. His head turns. Those grey eyes come up and find Cassian's face and move across it slowly. Not reading attraction, not reading danger exactly, but reading something with the specific attention of a person who has learned to make decisions from expressions, because expressions are the only text they were ever given. Cassian says, "I won't hurt you." 3 words. No elaboration, no proof offered, because there is no proof he can offer right now except the fact that he is standing 3 feet away and his hands are at his sides. Zaire holds his gaze for 4 seconds, then looks away. Cassian brings water, then tea, chamomile, heated to the temperature that is warm but not scalding, because something about the specific quality of this moment demands gentleness, and Cassian has stopped second-guessing the instinct. And he sets both on the glass table in front of the white sofa where Zaire has settled, shoes off, feet tucked beneath him, the phone resting face up on his knee. Twice while Cassian moves through the kitchen, Zaire flinches. Small, controlled flinches, the kind that belong to someone who is used to managing their own reactions so that other people don't notice them. Both times his hand drifts down. That same gesture from the gala, fingers pressing briefly against his lower abdomen. There and gone. Reflexive. Protective. Cassian says from across the room, "You're in pain." Zaire's hand stills. He looks down at it, as if he didn't realize he was doing it. Then he nods. Once, precise. Cassian picks up his phone and makes a call. The physician who answers, private, New Jersey-based, and expensive for his discretion rather than his bedside manner, arrives in 40 minutes without asking why he has been called to a Park Avenue penthouse at midnight, because that is the exact service Cassian retains him for. The examination is quiet. Zaire sits through it with a stillness that speaks of long practice, with medical spaces, with waiting, with the moment before someone tells you something your body already knows. Cassian waits in the kitchen. At 5:14 in the morning, the physician finds him at the counter. He places a single sheet of paper between them. Cassian reads it. The room does not shake. The floor does not drop. Nothing visible happens to Cassian Eze's face. But somewhere behind his sternum, the entire architecture of the last 8 weeks reconfigures itself around 2 words printed in clean clinical font at the center of the page. 8 weeks. He puts the paper down. He counts. Late October, Boston. A merger negotiation that ran 3 days past schedule because the Vale maritime lawyers kept finding new items to contest. Cassian had suspected theatre, had said so to his own team, and been right, which made no difference because theatre still costs time. A nor'easter that grounded every flight out of Logan for 14 hours. One available suite in the hotel where both teams had been billeted, because the city was full that week with a medical conference and a college football game, and the particular bad luck of two people who had been professionally adjacent for 6 months suddenly having nowhere else to go. And Cassian had offered the bedroom. Zaire had shaken his head. They had been careful. He had believed they had been careful. The paper sits on the counter. Cassian walks back to the living room. Zaire is awake, sitting in the same position, tea untouched, phone in both hands, thumbs still. He is watching the city below the windows. The light outside has started to change. Not dawn yet, but the specific dark that happens right before dawn, when the sky goes from black to a deep particular blue that belongs to no other hour. Cassian sits in the chair across from him. He says, "The child is mine." It lands in the room without drama, without performance. Just 4 words, flat and factual, dropped into the space between them like something that has always been true and is only now being said out loud. Zaire does not move. His throat works, and his jaw is set in a way that looks controlled but is actually the opposite. The expression of a face holding very still, because if it moves, it might not stop. He closes his eyes, opens them, nods. Cassian sits with that for a moment, then, "How long have you known?" Zaire picks up his phone, types, turns the screen, 11 days. And Darius? The answer takes longer this time. Zaire's thumbs move across the screen slowly, as if he is choosing each word with the care of someone who knows words cannot be retrieved. He doesn't know about the pregnancy. He sent me to the gala because he wanted Eze Capital seen publicly with a veil. Leverage. If you took the meeting, he had the photo. If you rejected me publicly, he had the humiliation. I was the option that couldn't lose for him. Cassian reads it twice, and the cold that moves through him is not surprise. It is recognition. He has been in enough boardrooms with enough Darius Vales to recognize the move, use the asset that cannot speak to tell a story that only the deployer controls. A mute Omega brother sent into a room full of powerful alphas with no protection and no exit strategy, as a message written in human currency. He feels something he does not name. He picks up his own phone and types one message to a number with no name attached to it in his contacts, a number he has used 3 times in his career, always for situations that required speed over deliberation. He presses send, then looks at Zaire. "You're not going back to him," Cassian says. Zaire stares at him. His fingers tighten around the phone in his lap. He types something, deletes it, types again, deletes again, then finally holds the screen up. "You don't know what he'll do if I disappear." "No," Cassian says, "but he doesn't know what I'll do either." And for the first time since the gala, since the stumble in the doorway, since the physician's paper on the counter, for the first time, Zaire Vale looks at Cassian Eze, and something in those storm-grey eyes shifts. Not trust, not yet. Something before trust, the first molecule of a thing that could, in the right conditions, eventually become it. The city outside the windows is beginning to lighten. Cassian's phone vibrates on the counter. The message from Darius Vale reads, "Return him by morning, or the shipping lanes through Maryland and Florida close for Eze vessels permanently." Cassian turns the phone face down. What Darius does not know, what no one outside this penthouse knows, is that Zaire Vale has been inside Cassian's home for 6 hours. And in those 6 hours, something shifted that cannot be shifted back by a threat, by a deadline, by the closing of any shipping lane on any coast. What Darius also does not know is that the anonymous tip currently making its way to a federal financial crimes inbox in Boston contains the first 14 pages of what will eventually become a 41-page document about a shell corporation in Wilmington, Delaware, and the man whose name is on it. But that is not today's story. Today's story is a paper on a kitchen counter and a man on a white sofa who has been carrying something alone for 11 days in a body that has never been allowed to speak. Cassian has 5 calls to make before 6 a.m., and he makes all 5. The Connecticut estate goes quiet by 10 every night. The tree line swallows the property from 3 sides, thick, mature oaks that predate the house itself, that have been absorbing sound since before any of the people currently inside this building were born. No road noise, no press line. The kind of quiet that requires adjustment from anyone accustomed to a city, which is why the first 3 weeks Zaire Vale does not sleep past 4 in the morning. He wakes in the pre-dawn dark, disoriented, reaching for sound the way people reach for a lamp, in a room they don't know yet, and finding only the trees. Then he breathes, remembers where he is, and lies back down. Cassian arrives every Thursday. He does not call ahead, he does not send a message, and he simply appears in the kitchen at 7 p.m. with food from a specific market in Hartford, not because the estate cannot be provisioned, but because he learned by the 4th week that Zaire eats better when the food is unfamiliar. New things require attention. Attention is not grief. The private OB flies in from California once a month. She is efficient, precise, and asks Zaire questions by writing them on a notepad she keeps specifically for this. Without being asked, without making it a production, because Cassian briefed her before the first visit and she adjusted without comment. Zaire's vitals are good. The pregnancy is progressing without complication. The baby's heartbeat at 16 weeks is steady and strong and slightly fast, the way all of them are at this stage. The way this particular one makes the OB nod with a satisfaction that tells Cassian everything he needs to know without her having to say it. What Cassian does not tell Zaire during these months covers several categories. He does not tell him that Darius escalated twice in October. Once through a proxy investor in Illinois who attempted a coordinated share pressure on Eze Capital, and once through a rumor campaign seeded through 3 Texas business contacts, suggesting that Cassian had suffered an undisclosed health crisis and was no longer making sound decisions. Both efforts were addressed before they became visible. Cassian's team is built for exactly this kind of precision, and they exercise it quietly, without drama, the way good infrastructure works. You only notice it when it fails. And he does not tell him that the federal inquiry in Boston has expanded. He does not tell him that he thinks about the Boston hotel room more than he has thought about any single night in the last decade, and not in the way he expected to think about it. What he does tell Zaire is less and more specific. He tells him when the security rotation changes. He tells him when the OB adjusts her recommendation. He tells him on a Thursday in November that the Connecticut property has a second parcel, a smaller house at the back of the east field, separate from the main estate, with its own entrance and its own kitchen, and that Zaire can have it, all of it. Whatever configuration of space makes him feel like a person with choices rather than a person in a location. And Zaire reads this information on his phone. Cassian has taken to sending some things by text because it is faster and because Zaire's phone is the instrument of his voice. And there is something about receiving communication that way, in writing, that levels the floor between them. Zaire reads it, then looks across the kitchen table at Cassian. He types, "Why do you keep doing more?" Cassian considers this with the same attention he gives every question that does not have a clean answer. "Because more is what's needed," he says, "and I'm in a position to provide it." Zaire stares at him, types again, faster this time. "That's not an answer. That's a policy." Cassian pauses, then, "Fair." And he does not give the real answer. Not yet. And because the real answer is something he has not yet finished building in himself, something that lives in the specific quality of attention he gives to the sound of Zaire moving through the house in the morning, to the way the pregnancy has changed the way Zaire holds his body, to the particular expression on Zaire's face when the OB places the ultrasound wand and the monitor fills with the fast, specific, definite rhythm of the child they have not yet named. The real answer is something he is not in the habit of saying because he is not in the habit of feeling it. And feeling it does not yet mean he knows what to do with it. By month 6, Zaire has moved to the back house. By month 6 and 2 weeks, he has started leaving the back door open when he reads in the afternoons. A small adjustment that costs him nothing and changes nothing visibly, except that now the light comes through from both directions and the house no longer smells only of one person. By month 7, on a Thursday evening in late October, when the tree line has gone every shade of fire and a cold front is pressing rain against the windows, Zaire looks up from his phone, finds Cassian across the living room, and types something he has been carrying for longer than he can accurately calculate. He turns the screen. "Why are you protecting me?" 4 words, but the weight behind them is not 4 words. It is 29 years of a family that used him as furniture, of a world that read his silence as vacancy, and of the specific loneliness of a person who is present in every room and absent from every conversation, who carries things alone because alone is the only option that has ever been offered. Cassian reads the screen. He sets down his coffee, and then he does something he has not done in front of another person in longer than he could name a year for. He crosses the room, kneels, one knee on the wide planked floor, bringing his eyes level with Zaire's, sitting in the armchair with the throw blanket over his lap and the firelight behind him. Not dramatic, not performing, at eye level, the only altitude from which the answer means anything. "Because you are not a bargaining chip," he says. "Because what you're carrying deserves to come into the world without fear attached to it. And because I have watched you make yourself smaller in every room you've entered since October, and I am finished watching that." Zaire looks at him. His eyes fill, not softly, the way a container fails when it has held too much for too long. Sudden, specific. His hand comes up to cover his mouth. His shoulders drop first, then shake. The sound that comes out of him is not crying exactly. It is the release of pressure that has been building since before Boston, since before the gala, since a long time before Cassian Eze entered any version of this story. Cassian does not move from the floor. He stays exactly where he is, at eye level, present. He does not say it will be fine. He does not make a promise he cannot guarantee. Outside, the rain finds the windows. The fire settles. Somewhere in the estate behind them, the security team rotates in silence, and the Connecticut trees absorb the sound of everything, the way they have absorbed every sound for a century before tonight. And somewhere in a federal office in Boston, a case file thickens, and Zaire Vale, in his Massachusetts study, makes a phone call to a private investigator and gives him an address that is 2 states and 3 security perimeters away from where his brother actually is. Because the one thing Darius has never been able to account for is the possibility that his brother finally found someone who didn't need him to speak to understand what he was saying. The federal story breaks on a Tuesday, and Zaire Vale's lawyers are on the phone before the article finishes loading. Cassian reads the headline from his kitchen in Connecticut: "Vale Maritime Offshore Holdings under federal review, Shell Corporation traced to Wilmington, Delaware," and puts his phone face down on the counter without expression. He picks up his coffee, finishes it, rinses the mug, places it in the rack with the precision of a man who is deeply calm, or doing a very convincing impression of it. He texts his legal team one sentence: "Let it run." The case had been building for 4 months, 14 pages in October, 22 in November, 41 by the time the anonymous package reached the right desk in Boston, the desk belonging to a federal financial crimes investigator who has been looking for a clean entry point into New England shipping money for 2 years and recognizes, when she sees it, the difference between a tip and a gift. This is a gift. Cassian did not manufacture evidence. He gathered what existed and placed it where it would be seen by people with the authority to act on it. The distinction matters to him, not for legal reasons, for the reason that the man asleep in the back house across the East Field grew up inside a family that manufactured truth to fit its needs, and Cassian will not use the same tool on his behalf. By Thursday, 2 Massachusetts senators have issued statements. By the following Tuesday, Zaire Vale's lawyers are no longer on offense. Cassian drives to the back house in the early afternoon. The field between the main estate and the smaller house is half frozen, the ground stiff, the dead grass pale gold in the weak December light. He knocks, waits. Zaire opens the door in a grey sweatshirt with the sleeves pushed to his elbows. Barefoot on the wooden floor, a book held loose in his left hand with his thumb marking the page. At 32 weeks, the pregnancy has changed the way he stands. There is a new center of gravity to him, a rebalancing that his body has made quietly and without complaint, the way Zaire does most things. His eyes find Cassian's face immediately. Reading. Cassian says, Darius won't be a problem anymore. Zaire holds his gaze for a long moment, then steps back and opens the door wider. Cassian steps inside. The back house smells like coffee and books, and the specific warmth of a small space that is properly heated and actually lived in. Dishes in the drying rack, a throw blanket with an indent from where someone has been sitting, a child's onesie, pale yellow, hanging from the back of a kitchen chair. Zaire bought it last week. And Cassian knows because he saw the delivery confirmation in the estate security log and said nothing because some things are not his to comment on. Zaire crosses to the kitchen table and sits down. He picks up his phone. Types. What did you do? What needed doing? Nothing that required more than what he already did to himself. Zaire looks at the phone, looks at Cassian. Types again, slower. He'll come back from it. He always does. Not this time. Cassian pulls out the chair across from him and sits. The exposure is federal. Civil penalties follow criminal inquiry in his bracket. He's going to spend the next 18 months managing that. He doesn't have the bandwidth for anything else. Zaire puts the phone down. He is looking at the pale yellow onesie on the kitchen chair. His hand rests flat on the table in front of him. Not tense. And not gripping. Still. The specific stillness of a person whose body has finally been given room to be still. His shoulders drop, just slightly, just measurably. Cassian watches this. He does not comment on it. He says, the OB confirmed the birth plan is solid. She wants the facility in Maryland. She has privileges there. The team is good. The discretion is guaranteed. Zaire nods. 6 weeks, Cassian says. Zaire picks up the phone again, starts to type, stops, starts again. This time he turns the screen immediately, without hesitating the way he sometimes does. The habit of a man who checks his own words twice before he lets them be read. I need to ask you something. You don't have to answer in a way that's polished, just honest. Cassian says, okay. Zaire types for a long moment. More words than usual. When he turns the screen, Cassian reads it in full. When this is over, when the baby is here and Darius is handled and the legal thing is settled, what happens to me? Not to the baby. I know you'll claim him. I know what that looks like legally and publicly, and I understand it. But what happens to me? Do I go back to being the archivist? Do I go back to being invisible? Because I can handle that. I have handled that for my entire life. I just need to know now so I can prepare for it instead of being surprised by it. The kitchen is quiet. Outside, the frozen field catches the December light and throws it flat and pale against the window. The pale yellow onesie moves slightly in the draft from the heating vent. Somewhere in the main estate 200 yards away, a security rotation is changing in silence. Cassian reads the message twice. Then he looks at Zaire directly, not at the phone, at the man, at the 32 weeks pregnant, barefoot, storm-grey-eyed, mute man who grew up in a family that treated his silence as a defect and his body as a resource, who walked into a federal building in Boston 6 months ago in an oversized suit jacket and left with Cassian's hand on his arm and no guarantee of anything except that the alternative was worse. The man who just asked the bravest question Cassian has been asked in years. And Cassian, who has closed deals worth 9 figures, who has outmaneuvered 3 hostile acquisition attempts and 2 federal inquiries and 1 very deliberate attempt by a Massachusetts shipping family to use his name for leverage, opens his mouth and stops. And because the honest answer to that question is something he has not yet said out loud to anyone, including himself, and saying it now in this kitchen with 6 weeks left and everything still unresolved and the ground still shifting under both of them. Saying it now is either the right move or the most reckless one he has ever made. His jaw tightens. Zaire watches him. The pause stretches. Cassian picks up his own phone, types 4 words, slides it across the table. Zaire reads it. His expression does not break open. It does not collapse or flood. It does something quieter and more specific than either of those things. A single, small, controlled adjustment, like a door that has been locked from the inside for a very long time, moving precisely 1 inch. He picks up his own phone, types his response, slides it back. Cassian reads it. And for the first time in this entire story, For the first time since a diamond ring hit a marble floor at 2:47 in the morning, since a child cried himself quiet in an east wing, since a nor'easter grounded 2 flights and changed everything, Cassian Eze does not have a next move calculated. He sits in a small house in Connecticut in December with an untranslated feeling in his chest and 6 weeks left before the world changes permanently. And whatever is on those 2 phones, whatever those 4 words said, and whatever answer came back across the table, that is a secret that belongs for now only to them. The baby comes at 3:17 in the morning, and Cassian Eze does not leave the room once, not when the monitors spike. Not when the OB's voice drops to that specific low register that medical professionals use when they are managing a situation that is still manageable but has crossed into territory that requires every one of their skills simultaneously. Not when the second nurse appears from the hallway without being called, which means someone pressed a button. Cassian did not see pressed, which means the situation has a name that no one in this room is saying out loud yet. He stays at Zaire's left side. His hand is in Zaire's grip, and Zaire is not holding it gently. 12 hours of labor has stripped every careful, controlled layer from both of them, and what is left is just this. 2 people in a room in Maryland at 3 in the morning, one of them doing the most physically demanding thing a human body can do, ours and one of them doing the only thing left available to him, which is to stay. He stays. The complication comes in the final 2 hours. The OB uses words that are precise and clipped and designed to communicate urgency without producing panic, and Cassian receives each word like a number in an equation, filing it, holding it, not letting any of it show on his face because Zaire's grey eyes are on him between contractions, and what Zaire needs from Cassian's face right now is not fear. Cassian gives him steadiness instead. It is the hardest thing he has done in his life, harder than any acquisition, harder than the federal inquiry, harder than every calculated move in a career built entirely on being the most prepared person in any given room. Because there is no preparation for this specific powerlessness, for standing beside someone who is fighting and being able to offer nothing except presence, nothing except the fact of your hand in theirs, nothing except your face being the last thing they look at before the next wave of pain takes them somewhere you cannot follow. Cassian offers all of it. At 3:17 a.m., the cry comes, strong, immediate, a sound that fills the room from corner to corner without apology, without warm-up, announcing itself the way some people enter rooms, completely, all at once. The OB's shoulders drop 1 inch. The nurses exchange that micro-expression of professional relief. Equipment settles into normal rhythms. The particular thinness of the air in the room over the last 2 hours fills back in with something warmer, and the infant is placed on Zaire's chest. Zaire's head falls back against the pillow, his eyes close. He is shaking, not from fear, not from cold, from the specific total exhaustion of a body that has done something enormous and is only now beginning to understand that it is finished. Then his eyes open, and he looks down. The child on his chest is small and definite, and already, in the first 30 seconds of his existence, gripping Zaire's hospital gown with one fist in a way that communicates something very specific about the kind of person he is going to be. Zaire makes a sound, not a word, not speech in any technical definition, but a sound, coming from somewhere beneath the silence, beneath the muteness, beneath the 29 years of a throat that was never given the chance to speak. A sound that belongs to no language, and every single one of them at once. Cassian goes completely still. The OB looks at him. He does not look back at her. He is looking at Zaire's face, at this specific expression, raw and open and unguarded, in a way Cassian has never seen on another person. Not once. Not in 34 years of watching human beings in high-stakes situations. And he is committing it to the part of his memory that does not forget things. He holds both of them. Zaire first, an arm around his shoulders, careful of the monitors, careful of everything. Careful in the way a man is careful with something that cannot be replaced. Then the child, because Zaire lifts him slightly toward Cassian with a gesture that is not a handoff. It is an introduction. It is Zaire saying, without a phone, without a screen, without any of the tools he uses to speak, "This is yours too. You should hold him." Cassian holds his son for the first time at 3:24 a.m. in a Maryland medical room. The child weighs 6 pounds and 11 ounces and smells like the specific new person smell that has no comparison and no adequate description. His eyes are closed. His fist is still clenched, released now from the hospital gown, curled against his own chest as if he is already preparing for something. Cassian looks at him. His throat moves. He does not speak because there are no words in any business language he has ever learned for this specific moment. And the personal language, the one that lives in the part of him that has been very quiet for a very long time, does not have a public-facing format yet. He looks at Zaire. Zaire is watching him hold the child. His grey eyes are soft and spent and clear, the specific clarity that comes after enormous effort, after pain that has finished, after the thing that was feared has been survived. He picks up his phone from the bedside table with a hand that is still slightly unsteady. Types, turns the screen. His name is Elian. Cassian reads it. He looks at the child, at the name, back at the child. Elian, he says out loud, in a Maryland room at 3:24 in the morning. I with the city of Baltimore visible through the window and Manhattan 40 miles north and the entire structure of his previous life already reorganized around a 6-pound fact he is holding in both arms. The child does not react to his name. He is 4 minutes old. He has other priorities. But Cassian says it again anyway. Quietly. Like a beginning. The press conference is Cassian's legal team's idea, and it is the wrong one. He knows this at 6 a.m. when the draft statement lands in his email, 3 pages of carefully managed language designed to acknowledge the heir's existence while controlling every variable of the narrative. He knows it at 8 when his PR director calls from New York to walk him through the rollout. 14 outlets, simultaneous at 9 a.m., a single controlled photograph, no questions, no follow-up access. He knows it at 8:50 when he is standing in the hallway outside Zaire's room in the Maryland facility, coffee going cold in his hand, reading the draft one final time. He sends it anyway. Because the alternative, continued silence, has already cost things he cannot afford to lose twice. The investors need stability. The board needs a signal. The public narrative, left unmanaged, will fill itself with whatever Darius Vale's remaining allies choose to pour into it. So he sends it. By noon it is everywhere. The photograph is controlled and clean. Cassian in grey Brooks Brothers, Zaire in soft Ralph Lauren, Elian in a pale yellow wrap. The Maryland facility's garden providing a background that reads as private without reading as hiding. Zaire's name is in the statement, his condition is not. In the language around his muteness is absent by design, not to erase it, but because Zaire's voice is not Cassian's information to distribute. The internet does what the internet does. Some of it is warm, some of it is the specific kind of commentary that powerful men attract when they are seen beside someone quiet and unassuming. The commentary that searches immediately for the angle, the transaction, the leverage, because it cannot accept that proximity to power might sometimes be genuinely protective. Cassian reads none of it. He is back in Maryland by 2 p.m., back in the room by 2:15, carrying lunch from the same Hartford market, old habit, transferred south, and the room smells like clean linen and Elian and the chamomile tea that has become its own kind of constant. Zaire is sitting up in the hospital bed with Elian asleep against his chest, one hand curved around the infant's back, phone face up on the blanket. He looks at Cassian when he enters. His expression is readable. Cassian has gotten better at this over the months, at reading the specific vocabulary of a face that has learned to carry the full weight of what other people offload into words. This expression says, "I saw the statement." Cassian sets the food down, pulls the chair close to the bed, sits. Zaire picks up his phone, types, "You used my name without asking." "I should have asked." No defense, no explanation offered first. "That was wrong." Zaire looks at him, types again. "The photograph too." "I didn't agree to the photograph." "I know." "So why?" Cassian is quiet for a moment, long enough to be honest rather than fast. "Because I was managing the story, and I made a decision in the middle of managing it that I should have stopped and brought to you first, and I didn't." Zaire reads this. His hand moves in small circles on Elian's back, automatic, unconscious, the gesture of a parent whose body has already learned this rhythm without being taught. He types, "This is what I was afraid of. That the moment it became public, it would stop being about me and start being about the narrative." The room is quiet. Cassian does not argue. He does not produce the counterpoints his brain is already generating. The genuine threats that the public narrative would have posed without management. The real damage that unchecked speculation causes to real people. He does not say any of it because Zaire is not wrong. And both things are true simultaneously. The statement was necessary and it was handled without the consent of the person most affected by it. He says, "What would you have wanted?" Zaire looks at Elian, types slowly, "I would have wanted you to come in here at 6 a.m. when you got the draft and read it to me. I would have wanted to cross out the parts I didn't choose. I would have wanted to be in the room where the decision was made instead of finding out with everyone else." "That's fair," Cassian says, "and it won't happen again." Zaire types, "You keep saying things won't happen again. And I keep meaning them. Meaning them isn't the same as changing. The silence between them is long and specific, and Elian sleeps through all of it, small and indifferent, with his fist against his own cheek." Cassian leans forward, both elbows on his knees. And he is not performing humility. He is simply at close range, which is where this conversation belongs. "Tell me what change looks like," he says. "Not what you want me to stop doing. What you want me to start." Zaire stares at him. This is not a question he has been asked before. Cassian can see this in the specific way Zaire goes still. Not closed, not guarded, but genuinely processing. The way a person processes the unexpected offer of a thing they have wanted for so long, they stopped expecting it to be available. He picks up his phone. He types for a long time. When he turns the screen, what Cassian reads is not a list. It is not a negotiation. It is a single paragraph from a man who has spent his entire life speaking in silence, and who is now, slowly and carefully, learning to trust that the words on the screen will be received by someone who will not use them against him. Cassian reads it twice. Then he does something he has done only once before in Zaire's presence. He picks up his own phone, he types, he slides it across the blanket. Zaire reads it. His throat moves. His hand stills on Elian's back for exactly 3 seconds. Then he looks up, and the door to the room opens. Cassian's lead attorney steps in, apologetic, reading the room, not apologetic enough. "I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a development. Darius Vale has issued a counter-statement through his legal team claiming custody rights to the child based on Omega family protection statutes in Massachusetts. It's not enforceable in Maryland, but it's going to generate press." Cassian turns his head. He does not raise his voice. And he says 2 words. The attorney stops, nods, steps back out. The door closes. The room goes quiet again. Elian shifts on Zaire's chest, makes a small sound, settles. Cassian looks at Zaire. Zaire is not looking at the door. He is looking at the phone. At the message Cassian typed, still on the screen between them. His expression has not changed from what it was before the attorney walked in. It has simply added 1 layer. Not fear. Not the old fear, the gala fear, the being used fear. Something different. The specific expression of a person who has realized in real time that the thing they were just offered is going to be tested immediately, and who is deciding in real time whether they believe it will hold. His grey eyes come up and find Cassian's. The question in them is not about Darius. It is about the message still on the screen, and Cassian's answer, whether it holds or crumbles under the first pressure applied to it, is going to determine every single thing that comes next. Darius Vale's custody claim lasts 11 days. 11 days of legal language and counterfilings, and a Maryland family court judge who reads the Massachusetts statute in question carefully, reads the Maryland response even more carefully, and issues a ruling on a Friday afternoon in language so dry and precise that it takes Cassian's attorney 2 full paragraphs to explain what it means in plain terms. The claim has no standing. The child was born in Maryland. The child lives in Maryland. The child's birth certificate lists both parents. And Massachusetts Omega protection statutes do not cross state lines in the direction Darius Vale's lawyers claimed they did. Darius Vale is out of legal moves. His financial exposure is accelerating. His shipping contracts in Florida have been quietly redistributed to competitors, not by Cassian, by clients who read federal inquiry coverage and made their own calculations. The Massachusetts family name, 3 generations old, is being carried through news cycles in a direction no PR team can redirect fast enough. He calls Cassian directly on a Tuesday morning. Cassian answers. He lets Darius speak for 90 seconds. The pitch is sophisticated, restructured as a peace offering, a business proposition, a suggestion that both men are adults who understand that family conflict is bad for quarterly returns, and surely there is a number, a position, a formal arrangement that makes this particular situation navigable for everyone involved. Cassian says no. Single syllable, no elaboration. He ends the call. His attorney, sitting across from him in the Maryland house's kitchen, raises an eyebrow. Cassian says, "File the restraining order we discussed, both states." The attorney nods, makes a note, leaves. The kitchen goes quiet. Cassian sits with his coffee and the particular silence of a man who has just closed a chapter that required 4 months, 41 pages of documentation, 2 attorneys, 3 states, and more patience than he knew he possessed. He expected to feel something large about it. Resolution, maybe. Satisfaction of the clean, complete variety. What he feels instead is tired. Not the tired of someone who has run out of capacity, the tired of someone who has been running at maximum capacity for a long time and has only now, in the moment when the external pressure reduces, noticed the cost of it in his own body. He thinks about what Zaire typed on the screen in the Maryland medical room. The paragraph, the one he read twice before he picked up his own phone and typed the 4 words and slid it back across the blanket. He has not yet delivered on those 4 words. The statement was wrong. The photograph was wrong. The attorney walking in and out of that room without reading the moment was wrong. All of it was wrong, and Cassian has said so, clearly, directly, without the kind of performative apology that substitutes language for change. But saying and changing are, as Zaire noted, different things. Elian is 6 weeks old and lives in the Maryland house's 2nd bedroom, which Zaire has arranged with the specific thoughtfulness of someone who has been mentally furnishing it for months. Warm yellow walls, a mobile that moves in the draft from the heating vent, a rocking chair positioned to face the window so that whoever is in it at 3 in the morning can look out at the back garden and the field beyond it, while the rest of the world sleeps. Cassian has been in that chair 4 times. Each time, Zaire was in the doorway. Not supervising, not checking, standing in the space between the hallway and the room, the way a person stands when they are watching something they did not expect to be moved by and are not yet ready to name what the moving means. On a Wednesday evening in February, Cassian is in the kitchen making pasta, the one dish he has genuinely perfected, through repetition and actual investment in the outcome, when Elian starts crying from the 2nd bedroom. He turns the heat to low, wipes his hands, goes to the bedroom. Elian is awake and unhappy about it, which he communicates with the full volume of a 6-week-old who is already determined that volume produces results. Cassian lifts him from the crib. The crying continues. He shifts the angle, tries the motion that worked at 4 in the morning last Thursday, slow, side to side, slightly diagonal, the specific rhythm Elian seems to prefer. The crying slows, then stops. Elian looks at him with the unfocused, searching gaze of a very young infant who is still assembling the concept of faces, examining Cassian's with the serious, impersonal attention of someone doing important cataloguing work. Cassian looks back. "I know," he says quietly. "I'm still figuring this out too." Elian appears unmoved by this admission, but tolerates it. From the doorway, Zaire is watching. Cassian does not hear him arrive. Zaire moves through spaces quietly in the way people do when they have spent a lifetime not wanting to announce themselves. But Cassian feels the specific change in the room's atmosphere that comes with Zaire's presence, the way he has felt it since that Connecticut living room, since the Boston hotel room, since longer ago than he has been honest with himself about. He turns. Zaire is leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, in a grey sweatshirt that fits him better than the Prada jacket ever did. And he is looking at Cassian and Elian with an expression that is quiet and unguarded in the way his expressions have become, gradually, over these weeks, like a window that has been closed for a long time and is being opened 1 inch at a time and is finally, in this specific light, in this specific room, letting something through. He uncrosses his arms, he picks up his phone, types, holds the screen toward Cassian across the small room. The pasta is going to burn. Cassian looks at the screen, then at Zaire's face. There is something in it, something that has not been there in exactly this configuration before. Not the gratitude from the Connecticut living room, not the exhausted openness of the delivery room, something that has been building quietly, the way things build when they are real and not performed, when they grow in the space between small actions rather than large announcements. Cassian holds Elian slightly closer for 1 second, then crosses the room, hands him to Zaire, the same introduction gesture reversed, same care, same deliberateness. Zaire takes his son with the automatic competence of 6 weeks of practice and holds him against his chest and looks at Cassian from a distance of approximately 3 feet. Cassian says, "I meant what I typed." He says it quietly, without setup, because it has been sitting between them since the medical room and the attorney's interruption and the restraining order and 41 pages of federal documentation, and carrying it without saying it out loud again is its own kind of dishonesty. Zaire looks at him, 3 full seconds. Then he looks down at Elian, who has located the collar of Zaire's sweatshirt and is attempting to determine what it is through the one investigative method available to him. Zaire types one-handed, turns the screen. "I know you meant it. That's not what I'm deciding." Cassian reads it. "Then what are you deciding?" Zaire holds his gaze for a long moment. His grey eyes are clear and specific and the color of deep water in winter. Not cold, not stormy, just deep, just real. He types again, turns the screen. "Whether I'm allowed to mean it back." The kitchen timer goes off from down the hall. The pasta is fine, but neither of them moves to check it. On a Monday morning in March, Cassian Eze resigns as active CEO of Eze Capital in an email so brief it takes the financial press 48 hours to accept that it contains no hidden meaning. And it does not contain a hidden meaning. It contains a decision. His board calls an emergency session. He attends by video, jacket, no tie, Maryland house kitchen in the background, Elian's yellow mobile visible in the hallway behind him if you know where to look. The board members do not know where to look. They ask their questions. Is this health-related? Is there external pressure? Is this a tactical move in anticipation of the federal climate around New England shipping? Is there a timeline for reversal? Cassian answers each question with the same tone he has used in every boardroom for 10 years. Flat, certain, specific. No, 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 no. He appoints his COO, Jada Winters, and who has been running the operational side of Eze Capital for 3 years with a precision that rivals Cassian's own and surpasses it in areas that require people management, which most areas do, to the interim CEO role effective immediately. He has already spoken with Jada. She said, "I wondered when." He said, "That's not a question." She said, "I know, it was a compliment." He ends the board call. He closes the laptop. He sits in the Maryland kitchen for approximately 90 seconds. Then he gets up, packs a single bag, and drives to the market in Baltimore that has become his equivalent of the Hartford market, the one where he knows which section carries the things Zaire will actually eat versus the things that look nutritionally appropriate, because those are not the same list, and learning the difference required paying the kind of attention that cannot be faked. He arrives at the Maryland house at noon. He does not knock this time. He has a key. He was given a key 7 weeks ago on a Tuesday without ceremony. Zaire simply had one cut and left it on the kitchen table with a glass of water and a note that read, on his phone screen when Cassian arrived, "In case you're here before I wake up." The third step on the back stairs creaks. Don't step on it. Elian finally slept through till 6. He uses the key. The house smells like breakfast, and Elian and the specific warmth of a home that is in regular lived-in daily use by people who have stopped performing comfort and are just comfortable. Zaire is in the living room on the floor. This is new. This is a thing that has started in the last 2 weeks, since Elian has begun to have opinions about horizontal surfaces and what is interesting on them. Zaire is cross-legged on the rug with Elian on his stomach in front of him, both of them engaged in the serious project of a black and white board book that Elian is attempting to eat. Zaire looks up when Cassian comes in. Cassian says, "I resigned this morning." Zaire goes still. His grey eyes move across Cassian's face with that specific reading attention, not surprised exactly, but recalibrating. Filing. He picks up his phone one-handed, careful of Elian, who has released the board book and is now examining his own fist with the same level of interest. For how long? Indefinitely. Jada has the interim. The company is fine. I didn't ask about the company. Cassian sets his bag down, sits on the floor, not in the armchair, not on the sofa. On the floor, at the same level, across the rug from Zaire and Elian. Because eye level is a decision he keeps making and intends to keep making. For as long as it takes, he says, to do this correctly. I don't know the exact timeline, but I know that running a 9-figure portfolio from a Maryland kitchen while trying to be present in this house in any real way is not something I can do simultaneously without one of them suffering. And I know which one I choose. Zaire looks at him. Elian, unaware that a significant thing is happening 3 feet above his head, makes a sound of deep satisfaction about his own fist. Zaire types, "You understand that this doesn't fix anything. You understand that stepping down from a title is not the same as rebuilding trust. Right?" Yes. "And you understand that I'm not going to accelerate my timeline because you made a gesture." "I know." "So what is this then?" Cassian thinks about this for a moment, genuinely thinks about it. Not the polished version, not the version he would give a board member or a journalist or his attorney. "It's me starting from the right place," he says, instead of trying to manage the right outcome from the wrong one. Zaire reads this. His thumb moves once over the phone screen, then he puts it down. Face down, which means no more typing right now, which means he is in the part of himself that does not translate into text. He looks at Cassian. Then he lifts Elian from the rug, smooth, practiced, the grip of a parent who no longer has to think about it, and holds him out toward Cassian. Cassian takes his son. Elian grabs his collar immediately. This is new behavior, also 2 weeks old. Elian grabs every collar he can reach and examines it. Cassian has been told by the OB that this is developmentally appropriate. He has also been told by no one that it would feel like this. He sits on the floor with Elian in his arms and Zaire 2 feet away on the same rug and the March light coming through the Maryland windows at the specific angle of late morning. And he says nothing, because nothing needs to be said yet. The weeks that follow are not filmed. There is no camera crew for Cassian Eze learning the exact weight distribution of a sleeping 8-week-old. No press coverage of the grocery trips where Elian is in the carrier and Cassian is reading nutrition labels with the focused attention of a man who is used to reading contracts. No headline for the Wednesday afternoon where it rains and they are all 3 inside and Zaire falls asleep on the sofa and Cassian sits in the armchair with Elian and does not move for 2 hours. Because Zaire is sleeping and Elian is sleeping and the sound of the rain on the Maryland windows is specific and unhurried. On a Thursday in April, Elian reaches for Cassian. Not toward. Reaches for the specific, intentional infant gesture of arms extended and fingers open that means I want to go to that person specifically. Zaire is holding him. Cassian is across the kitchen. Elian's arms go out toward Cassian and the small sounds he makes are not ambiguous. Cassian goes still. Zaire's expression does not break. It does something quieter. A single controlled adjustment. Like a door moving precisely 1 inch on hinges that have been oiled recently. He crosses the kitchen, places Elian in Cassian's arms. Elian grabs the collar immediately. Satisfied. Done. Already looking at something on the far wall. Zaire is not looking at Elian. He is looking at Cassian's face. At the expression on it, which is not polished or managed or controlled. Which is the specific expression of a man who has been waiting for something without knowing he was waiting, and has just received it and has no prepared response because there is no professional category for this feeling. Zaire picks up his phone, types, holds it up. He knows you. 3 words. Cassian reads them. His throat moves. He looks at Elian, who has found the collar button and is attempting a mechanical analysis of it. He looks at Zaire. He looks at the Maryland kitchen and the rain light through the windows and the board book on the counter and the rocking chair visible through the bedroom doorway and the specific, unhurried, genuinely lived-in atmosphere of a house that has become something he did not have the vocabulary for in January. He says, "Yeah, just that." Zaire nods, puts his phone down, goes back to the kitchen counter to finish the coffee he was making before any of this happened. And the morning continues. Ordinary, specific, real, something Cassian Eze has not had in a life built entirely on scale, something small and true and belonging entirely to the people inside it. He does not know yet what tomorrow looks like, but he knows what this kitchen looks like at 10 in the morning in April. And for the first time in 34 years, that is enough to go on. On a Tuesday evening in September, the kitchen in Maryland is lit by the overhead fixture with the slightly warm bulb, the one Cassian replaced in June because the old one was too blue, and the light it made felt like an office, not a house. Elian is at the kitchen table. He is 8 months old and has recently developed a strong opinion about crayons. Specifically, that the best use of any crayon is to hold it in one fist and drag it across paper in a single decisive line, examine the result with complete seriousness, and then do it again in a different color. He has been doing this for 22 minutes. He has produced in that time what he has communicated through sound and expression is a boat. The boat has no recognizable boat features. It is, by any technical measure, and a series of overlapping arcs in 4 colors. It is also, without question, a boat. Cassian is at the stove. He is making pasta, not because it is the only thing he knows how to make, because that was true in January and is not true in September. He has learned 6 other dishes in the intervening months through the specific method of making them badly first, then making them less badly, then making them correctly, because this is the only method Cassian Eze knows for acquiring any skill, and it turns out it works in kitchens too. But pasta is what Elian likes. Pasta is what they are making. Zaire is at the kitchen table across from Elian, one leg folded beneath him in the chair the way he always sits, a book open in front of him with his thumb holding the page. His grey sweatshirt has a small mark on the left sleeve from this morning's breakfast, which he noticed and did not change because it is Tuesday, and Tuesday is not a day either of them has agreed to perform anything for anyone. The kitchen smells like garlic and olive oil and the warm, specific smell of a house that has been genuinely lived in for long enough that the smell is its own thing, not any single ingredient, not any one person. Both of them, all 3 of them, accumulated and particular and not reproducible anywhere else. Cassian adjusts the heat. Elian holds up his drawing for inspection. Cassian looks from the stove, takes in the boat with appropriate seriousness. "The color choices are bold," he says. Elian appears satisfied, sets the drawing down, selects a new crayon, begins a new project. Zaire does not look up from his book, but his mouth moves, not quite a smile, the thing before a smile, the thing that is its own expression and belongs specifically to moments like this one. The pasta simmers. The crayon moves across paper. The September light through the kitchen window is the specific amber of early evening, the kind that makes everything look like the last hour before something ends, except that nothing is ending. Nothing is ending at all. Elian puts the crayon down. He looks at the new drawing, looks at Zaire, looks at Cassian. Then, without build-up, without volume, in the easy sideways way that children say the things that will matter for years, "Daddy." The wooden spoon in Cassian's hand does not move. He is at the stove. Elian is at the table. 8 months of school pickups that are not school yet, but are mornings with Elian in the carrier and Baltimore visible from the park they pass on the way. 8 months of burned first attempts and corrected second attempts, and the bath temperature that had to be adjusted 3 times before Elian stopped making his opinion about it known. 8 months of the specific weight of a sleeping infant in a rocking chair at 3 in the morning, the rain on the windows, the mobile turning in the draft. 8 months of a kitchen, a house, a rug on the floor and a board book, and a yellow bedroom, and a key that was cut without ceremony and left on a table with a glass of water and a note that said, "Don't step on the 3rd stair." Elian is looking at him, not at Zaire, at Cassian, with the complete, direct, uncomplicated certainty of a small person who has been doing their own accounting. who has weighed every morning and every bath and every rocking chair night and every grocery trip and every floor-level conversation and every moment of someone staying in a room when they could have left, and arrived at a conclusion. Cassian sets the spoon down. He crosses the kitchen in 4 steps. He kneels, the 3rd time in this story he has knelt, and the last, and the only one that asks nothing of him except to be present at the right height for the right person. One knee on the kitchen floor, eye level with his son, who is watching him with the same serious, cataloguing expression of the very first night in a Maryland medical room, except that this time the face being examined is familiar. This time Elian knows exactly whose face it is, and he reaches out, one small hand, open, landing on Cassian's jaw, the pat of a toddler who has decided something and is communicating the decision through the only physical vocabulary available to him. Then he drops his hand, picks up the crayon, goes back to the drawing. Done, decided, already on to the next thing. Cassian stays kneeling. He stays kneeling for longer than makes practical sense, because his legs will tell him to stand up, and he is not listening to his legs right now. He is listening to the kitchen, to the pasta on the stove, to the crayon on the paper, to the specific unhurried rhythm of a September evening in a house that belongs to 3 people, now in a way that cannot be undone by a press release or a board meeting or a 41-page federal document or a diamond ring on a marble floor. He looks up. Zaire has put the book down. He is not looking at Elian. He is looking at Cassian's face, at the expression on it, which is the specific, unmanaged expression of a man whose internal architecture has just finished a renovation that started 8 months ago and is only now, in this kitchen, in this light, complete. Zaire picks up his phone, types, slides it across the table. Cassian reads it from the floor. It is not the 4 words from the Connecticut kitchen which he typed in February and which Zaire received and held and did not yet answer because he was deciding whether he was allowed to mean it back. It is 2 words. Cassian reads them. He gets up from the floor. He goes back to the stove. He adjusts the pasta. And he does not look at Zaire immediately because he needs approximately 6 seconds for his face to return to something that can function in normal conditions. And in those 6 seconds, the kitchen continues exactly as it was. Elian drawing, the light amber, the garlic and the olive oil, and the accumulated smell of a house that is genuinely, actually, irreversibly a home. Then he looks at Zaire. Zaire is watching him. His grey eyes are not the color of the sky before a storm. Not tonight. Tonight they are the color of deep water in good light, still and real and very clear and very close. Cassian says, "Yeah, just that." The same word he said in April when Elian reached for him and Zaire typed "He knows you," and the morning continued. Ordinary, specific, real. The same word, carrying everything. Zaire looks at him for 1 more second, then picks up his book, opens it back to his page, resumes reading. But the mouth thing that is not quite a smile and is its own expression, that is there. Settled. Not new anymore. Present the way things are present when they have been true for a while and are no longer surprising, only good. Elian holds up the new drawing. It is, he communicates through sound and expression, a dog. The dog has 4 legs and 7 ears and is, without question, the best dog currently in the state of Maryland. Cassian examines it with full seriousness. "Strong ears," he says. Elian is satisfied. The pasta finishes 3 minutes later. They eat at the kitchen table, all 3 of them. I with the September amber light holding the room in its unhurried way, and the Maryland evening settling into quiet outside, and the mobile turning in the draft through the bedroom doorway. No cameras, no press release, no crown and no collar, and no marble floor with a ring on it. Just dinner. In a kitchen, with a man who cannot speak, and a child who said 1 word, and an amber light, and the particular, specific, irreplaceable ordinary of a thing that was nearly destroyed, and was not. 8 months ago, a ring hit a marble floor at 2:47 in the morning. 8 months ago, a child cried in an east wing until he ran out of hope and stopped. 8 months ago, Cassian Eze sat 40 floors above Manhattan and calculated wrong and knew it, and did not yet know how to begin to calculate right. The answer, it turned out, was not in any boardroom. It was in a Connecticut living room floor in October, in a Maryland medical room at 3:17 a.m., In a back house kitchen in February with a phone slid across a table and 4 words on the screen. In an April morning with small arms extended across a kitchen. In a September evening with 1 word said sideways and casually by a small person who has already moved on to the next drawing. It was in the decision, made quietly and repeatedly and without announcement, to stay at eye level. That is what this was always about. Not the ring, not the empire, not the federal case or the shipping lanes or the press conference. This, the amber light, the 7-eared dog, the 2 words on a phone screen that Cassian Eze will carry for the rest of his life and has already committed to the part of his memory that does not forget things. Dinner continues. And the story does not. It simply becomes the life they are already living. From a Manhattan gala to a Maryland kitchen. From a diamond on marble to a 7-eared dog. This is what it looks like when someone chooses to change. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs it tonight. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this one. Stories about the cost of protection, the weight of silence, and what gets built when someone finally decides to stay. Drop a comment and tell us, what was the moment that changed everything for you in this story? We read every single one.